Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear Professor Harder Devar, and any other person who may be interested in watching this video. I'm very glad to be talking this morning after such satisfactory period of time studying the subject of multimedia tools. I'm going to be providing some comments and thoughts on the applications of the tools that we've been studying, how I actually manage to apply these during my professional practice at ELEX and different institutes where I've had the opportunity to be teaching, and how this has positively impacted my learning environments in terms of patterns of interaction, students talking time, diminishing anxiety or innovation by the means of providing meaningful, comprehensible input that is actually motivating and appealing to my students. Well, without further ado, let's proceed to explore the first tool that I want to highlight.
So Jonathan, what do you think about Speak Test Aloud 2.0?
Well, I think it's a great tool whenever you want to design a presentation, or let's say you have a big text amounts to read and you don't want to be doing it by yourself. So I think that Speak Aloud is a piece of text-to-speech software, and it can read text for you with different voices at different paces. So I think that it really is a great application for you whenever you want to have a presentation, or let's say that you want to give a short introduction with different voices and accents. It's a great opportunity to do that.
Okay, what language skills can it help to improve?
I think that it can help students to improve the pronunciation skill, in the sense that it provides an authentic and native-like pronunciation of different accents and varieties. So I think that in that sense it can be really interesting for improving pronunciation. Yeah.
And how can the program help us to develop professional?
It's quite beneficial in terms of providing engaging tools to language learners, because they're going to be having fun, but at the same time they're going to be focused on the amelioration of a communicative skill, being it pronunciation in this case. So it can actually contribute to the improvement and design of lessons by having very interesting materials.
Great. And how can we get it?
Well, it can be accessed via internet and be downloaded without any cost.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ed. And what do you think about enchantedlearning.com?
Well, enchantedlearning.com was one of the very last tools that we studied during this semester. Although it didn't have, let's say, a very appealing software vision at the very beginning, after I explored the tool, I managed to realize that the website presented a wide variety of activities that are characterized by an appealing visual input and colorful worksheets. And due to the design of the website, it is presumably very useful for teaching young learners and fostering creativity. And I would also say that it's very relevant to point out that it contains topics dealing with primary school subjects such as geography, animal life, and basic literature. So I think that it's a great opportunity for teaching content-language integrated skills, namely CLIL, due to it not only focuses on language as a name, but as a means for acquiring academic knowledge.
Okay, what would be some of the teaching learning usefulness?
Well, I actually managed to use this with second graders, and it was a great resource for planning clear lessons, as I mentioned before, especially with a focus on biology and very specifically ecosystems. The students had the chance to learn the concepts and language of learning for environmental issues such as rainfall, rainforest, soil, among others, while improving their English language skills.
And what about saberingles.com?
Saveringlass.com was another great tool for due to the website display resources for English language learners of all levels, which is actually very nice because it had different levels of difficulty depending on the ages and the proficiency of the students. And I think that it aims at facilitating the learning and skills, the improvement of this in English by providing several activities in a fun and interactive way. There are a lot of games, many activities, crosswords, puzzles. So I think that with saveringlass.com, students can learn while they're actually having fun and playing. It's very entertaining, very amusing. So it would certainly improve and increase the levels of intrinsic motivation towards the English subject matter. Another tool that I consider is really worth mentioning is the Oxford Study Genie Plus, produced by Oxford University, and it was actually one of the tools that I personally liked the most. What is it? It is a completely revised and updated edition of a bilingual dictionary with thousands of new entries, examples and expressions, plus notes on grammar, vocabulary, and cultural issues. The good thing about this dictionary is that it doesn't provide isolated definitions or translations, but rather it gives cultural tips and explanations on the usage of words and even the appropriateness in a social linguistic setting. So what does the Oxford Study Genie Plus dictionary do? This dictionary is designed for English language learners of an intermediate or advanced level, and it is an indispensable tool to improve writing and reading comprehension skills. The contents of the dictionary have been revised and expanded to include both British and American vocabulary and pronunciations, which is most relevant to today's students in technology, computer science, ecology, and sports fields, because it is not so narrow as to provide a single variety of English or a single model for pronunciation, but rather it is pretty open in terms of the different contributions that there may be available nowadays. It's also appropriate to highlight that there are application notes and a reference section to provide an invaluable supplementary materials that help students develop their knowledge of the language and the Anglo-Saxon culture. Another key feature is that it translates all English dictionary entries. It also provides phrasal verbs, word families, snapshots, and words online. In addition to interactive exercises and vocabulary games, puzzles, crosswords, maps, illustrations, and pronunciation practice. I was able to use it in one of the computer labs that we have at the university, and it was ideal for the improvement of pronunciation, reading comprehension, especially word collocation and subject-verb agreement, since it includes a section for doing so, and vocabulary skills, which make part of the functional and discourse dimension of language. In terms of helping us develop professionally, I think that the program seeks to equip language users with a more accurate and technical understanding of how word families, collocations, and phrasal verbs are used in English. Therefore, EFL teachers and learners would benefit from it by the means of achieving better grounded theoretical and practical foundations in the dimension of the functional competence of the language. That is knowledge that could subsequently be developed with our learners in our professional practice. An additional tool that I would certainly like to present is the Cambridge English Pronouncing Dictionary. I was able to use the Cambridge English Dictionary both for my own personal growth, but at the same time it was very useful for students in the sense that it provides a number of components that are, let's say, rather uncommon for the traditional dictionary, and because of its availability in terms of acquiring the dictionary at no cost at all. Well, firstly, I want to say that it is a great dictionary in the sense that it provides very ample sections for consulting rather uncommon or unknown words. So it has over 80,000 words and a list of, as I mentioned before, unconventional or low frequency jargon that could be used for academic purposes or that belongs to very specific fields or domains of knowledge. In addition, I found the dictionary very useful as well in the sense that it provides an interactive chart for setting the IPA for short, or the International Phonetic Alphabet. So it actually provides a chart in which all of the symbols are described with their corresponding pronunciation, and each word is followed by the actual transcription. And another good thing is that it has both British and American pronunciation, both varieties are included, and that is free. You can actually download the dictionary. It doesn't have any major inconvenience, so you could do it in a computer lab that you have. It could be used as a unique resource for students to have an aid in terms of looking up words that they don't know. And it was actually the way in which I used it in one of my classes. I was also using the computer lab, and I was emphasizing on the IPA, on how certain words, or better, how certain sounds are articulated. So they all of them were instructed to use the charts that are available in the dictionary. We had further practice on the symbols, what their places of articulation were. So it was a great opportunity for exploring this more technical feature of the English language. And by the time the class had ended, students had acquired a good deal of phonetic transcription. So this is another tool that I really liked, enjoy, and used, and is the Cambridge English Pronouncing Dictionary. Finally, I would say that another very interesting software was the Grammar 3D. And I was very amazed at the very beginning that we started exploring the tool, since let's say that my approach to grammar, when it was let's say either deductive or inductive, was mainly accomplished by using the whiteboard, or let's say the more kind of traditional tools to which we've been used to, namely the writing on the board, using the markers, probably sometimes providing students with worksheets or handouts. And Grammar 3D opened up a number of possibilities that were unknown to me. In this sense, I do consider that multimedia tools and the user-friendly approach used by the Professor Jairo Guevara was very useful in the sense of allowing me to discover different technologies that were really useful and that were not that abstract. And so the part that I liked the most from Grammar 3D was the proofreading section. Students have the opportunity to write down their thoughts and build certain paragraphs, kind of exploring with the tool, and they have some automatic corrections and let's say feedback, timely feedback, with some tips for improving, let's say, the subject-verb agreement, or the way in which they use collocations in English, especially useful for improving the syntax component that it sometimes, let's say, there's an over generalization from the Spanish syntax, so they tend to make the same kinds of mistakes over and over again to a certain point of fossilization. So it's really useful for students to start noticing how different constructions are developed differently in English and Spanish. Well, at the very same time, I like the fact that it's very useful in terms of spelling, due to the number of similarities that exist in Romance languages, in our case English, French, and Spanish. Students tend to kind of have the same patterns of spell mistakes with cognate words, or they tend to think that a number of words are cognates in English and Spanish, or let's say that in some cases these are false cognates. So there are certain spelling activities that actually encourage students to point out the differences among different categories of words in terms of how you spell endings, prefixes, suffixes, among others. So I think that overall this was another tool that I consider very useful for my professional practice. Well, finally, I want to give a sincere comment of gratitude and thankfulness to Professor Guevara, who was very friendly, very down to earth during our classes, a very friendly approach to teaching and learning, and I think that from my point of view, I learned a lot. I certainly could have been, let's say, to a certain extent, more dedicated with regard to due dates and other aspects, but well, I'm being self-critical in terms of my own learning process. But overall, I think that it was a great opportunity for learning, and I will certainly start implementing many things that I didn't take into account before. And well, thank you very much for your attention. I think you've enjoyed this short piece of reflection and self-criticism, and hope to see you next time. This was Jonathan Yanis, reflecting on Multimedia Tools by Professor Guevara.